Morning. Last class we started with the new concept or new lesson. So that is India and the partition of India. So already we talked last class about one of the personality. So that is Lord Mountbatten. So who came to India on 22nd March, so 1947. And as you all know, after all his arrival, he met all the major the leaders of our country. Finally, he came to a conclusion that the problem of Indians can be solved only through the partition of the country. So, with that, he had given his clauses and the terms. So, where he said the way the power will be transferred to India, so in 1947. So, finally, after the plan of Lord Mountbatten, plan was accepted by both the INC and League. So which came in the form of Act, which we call it as the Indian Independence Act 1947. So as we all know, 1947 was the year where we received an independence from British. So today's class, just we are going with the last topic of the Indian history. So with this topic called Indian Independence Act of 1947, so we are going to end the Indian history which we started 1857. So we are going to end in the 1947, and this will be the last lesson and the last topic of the Indian history. So today's class we will see how British people how British government transferred their powers to India, and how the India was called as an independent country from 1947 onwards. So the transfer of power to India was done under the act which is called as Indian Independence Act of 1947. So after Mountbatten plans, after the accept of Mountbatten, so Mountbatten announced on 3rd June. So on 3rd June, the announcement was made in 1947 that India is going to be given the power under the Indian Independence Act. So that announcement was made by Lord Mountbatten on 3rd June 1947. Then introduced the bill. The Indian Independence Act came in the form of a bill for the discussion on 4th July 1947. The bill was introduced by the British Prime Minister, who is called as Attlee. So he is the person who introduced the bill. So he is the man, or he is the person who introduced the bill or who drafted the bill to the House of Commons, in the British Parliament, where to have a discussion. So finally, the bill which was introduced by the British Prime Ministers came into an act on 18th July 1947 by the sign of or by the assent of royal, the prince of a British government. So they gave a signature and they accepted the Indian Independence Act. So 18th July 1947, the Indian Independence Indian Independence, the ordinary like a bill turned into an act. So it is been said that Indian Independent Act consists of 20 sections and the third schedules, so which will be saying how the power will be transferred or how the power is going to be transferred to Indians. So that is been mentioned here. So in that we are having few main provisions. okay, related to the Indian independence. So let us see one by one. The first and foremost is, according to the Indian Independence Act 1947 onwards, there will be a creation of two domains. Okay, the partition of our country will be made. So in that, one will be called as India and one will be called as Pakistan. So that is the two domain. From 15th August 1947 onwards, it will be there in our country. And at the same time, the creation of two domains. Okay, the creation of two, the India and Pakistan. So that will be, and now India, as you all know, so already the country is there. Then how the Pakistan is going to be formed as a separate country. So that through the, East Bengal, West Punjab, Sindh, and Northwest Frontier Province, and Assam. So all these provinces will be joined together and they will form a country called Pakistan. So that was the creation of two domains. Okay, so that's how the power will be transferred to India. So that's the first, which the Indian Independence Act says. The second act says each domain, that is to India and Pakistan, okay, so to India and Pakistan, to have our own Governor General. So in that, C. Rajagopalachari, so he became the Indian Governor General from 1947 onwards. And Muhammad Ali Jinnah became the Governor General of Pakistan. Okay, C. Rajagopalachari, so he is the first and the last, the Indian origin governor. After that, governor rule got end and we started with the Prime Minister President rule started to take place from 1950 onwards. So 1947 to till we get a constitution, so our country was under the governorship of C. Rajagopalachari. So that is the reason he is the first and the last Indian origin to be a Governor General. Before him, whoever were there, they are all the British Governor General. But in India, the first person to be elected as a Governor General, so that was C. Rajagopalachari. Okay, that's the one aspect, so which we are, having it. So that is the one concept, so which we are having it. So they are the people who are going to advise, or they are the people who are going to make the functioning of our country till we make or till we draft a constitution to our country. Then the third one we are having, Constant Assembly would become the Union Legislature. So Constant Assembly, okay, the Constant Assembly will turn into a Union Legislature or the Parliament today what we are having. Okay, so 1950 onwards, this Constant Assembly was renamed as a Parliament. Okay, that's how today we are having a Parliament. And Pakistan will have its own separate Constant Assembly, so they will be having it. So that's the one aspect, so which we are having it. So very important thing is why Constant Assemblies we should have it. So one is to, very important is to draft the constitution. Okay, to draft the constitution, the Constant Assembly is required for us, and at the same time, the Constant Assembly, so will be the, particularly Constant Assembly will be the, body which is going to control the entire country in central as well as a state. So today, that Constant Assembly is nothing but Parliament. So that's the one aspect, so which we are having it. So this is the third provision, so which stays under the Indian Independence Act. And next, the fourth one we are having, all the princely states to be called as an independent. So whichever the princely states which was under the control of Doctrine of Lapse, or which were all captured under the Doctrine of Lapse, Subsidiary Alliance, or under the British policy, so all the princely states will become an independent. Okay, so no more they are going to be under the control of British people. Okay, that's the one aspect, so which they said. And the fifth provision was very important. The Indian army would be divided. Okay, so the Indian army will be divided and equally it will be sent one group to India, equal number, and to the Pakistan. Okay, so equally the Indian army as well as the weapons or equipments, everything will be divided equally and it will be given to India and Pakistan. That is the next provision. So we are having it. The next one is, so the existing officer to be protected. Okay, already the government officers who are all appointed by the Secretary of State, that is British Secretary of State, who are already those who are holding a government job, they should be protected and they will continue in that particular existing office. Okay, so they cannot be removed or they cannot be, rechanged. Okay, they should be protected and they are going, the Secretary of State, British Secretary of State, who are appointed at the time till 1947, so they will be there in that particular existing office. Okay, that's the one aspect, so which we are having it. The next one we are having is abolish of the office of the Secretary of State. So no more the title called the Secretary of State, okay, or position or office called Secretary of State will exist in India completely. It has to be abolished. And the eighth one is end of the British Parliament. So 1947 onwards, so the British people or British government will not be going to end, or it will not be going to exist in India. So their way of rule, their jurisdiction, so every which was there with the government and between the Indian rulers, so completely it will be closed up, and no more British Parliament it will exist in India, or no more British government rule will be there so in India. So with this 8 provisions under the Indian Independence Act, so finally so we got independence in the 15th August, so 1947. So as we come to the conclusion of the concept, so with these 8, with this, the provision of these 8, under the Indian Independence Act of 1947, so we received an independence. And 1947 onwards, see Rajagopalachari so took up India under his governorship, and after that, immediately when we got independence, 15th August 1947, Pakistan got independence 14th August so 1947. So immediately when India got independence, they started the Constituent Assembly and they started to draft the constitution. And finally, as you all know, so 1947, so when the drafting committee, Constituent Assembly began to draft the constitution, so 1950. Okay, so 1950, that is 1950, 29, 1950, so we got a constitution to our country, so which was given. So from 1950 onwards, so as you all know, our country goes under the control of the 2 major title rule. So that will be, that is Prime Minister, the first Prime Minister, so that will be Jawaharlal Nehru from 1950, and the President, so we are having Dr. Rajendra Prasad being the first president, so who became the president of our country, Jawaharlal Nehru who became the prime minister of the country. So with their thing, so on 15th August 1947 onwards, our country recognized as an independent country. So that's how, with a long struggle of 1857, so 1857, so 1947, so finally India received, so India received freedom. So that's how the topics already which we have covered. And here you can see I have given you an India map, so which will be showing you the partition of country. Okay, so you can see here, the arrow mark which represents towards West Pakistan. So that indication, like this one and this and this, so that shows that the people from that particular frontier province, so here, so they all move towards this particular place, so which formed a country called Pakistan. Okay, that's the one aspect, you can see it there. And next you can see the people whoever were there before 1947, so that is these people. So from here, whoever were there in this provision, who did not like to remain in Pakistan, so they all moved towards India. Okay, and remaining people all were there here itself. Okay, so that's the one thing. And east side, if you see, the people, those who were there here in this region, so they all came. So those who all came to here, so they formed and joined India. Okay, and the people who were there here, so who did not like, so they went here and they formed East Pakistan. So that's how the partition of our country was done, and remaining people all remained there itself. So that's how the India and Pakistan, so it was created. So that's about the Indian Independence Act 1947. So here we complete the Indian history, so which we began in the 1857, so 1947, so we are ending up. Okay, so that's about the Indian history. So next class onwards, so we will move with the new topic, either a world history, or we will go with the civics, chapter Union Executive. Okay, such a concept, or we will go with the World War or the Indian history. So till here you can revise once again 1857 to 1947. So once again you go with all the lessons like first war of Indian independence, rise of nationalism, then early nationalists, partition of Bengal, then radical leaders, then formation of Muslim League, then the Indian national movement under Gandhiji, and all civil disobedience movement, Quit India movement, non-cooperation movement, then very important Subhash Chandra Bose we had discussed. Then today's class and the previous class, partition and of a country. So all these things once again revise the textbook, and whatever the concepts, okay, whatever, especially I think the first chapter and the second chapter, I have taken the complete lesson, I have taken it. Then remaining from early nationalists onwards, what is to be this year's syllabus, so that only I have dealt. Okay, so that's when I come there. So we will I will be telling which are the topics you have to cover in first and second chapter. So till here, whatever the topics we have discussed, so that topic you refer it once again in the textbook, and once if it is clear, then we will move with the next coming concepts. Thank you.